Hi Haunted family, welcome back to another episode. I hope you enjoyed the sit-down video that I posted earlier. I plan on doing more of those on the channel. If you have ideas for future episodes, please feel free to share them, either in the comments below or through our email. And as always, if you like the episode, don't forget to give us a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. Now sit back and enjoy the show. Story 1. Protector Spirit. I'm always willing to discredit strange occurrences. Until a hand I couldn't see tried to ram me through the bed. Before I married my husband in 1993, he lived in a small 2-bedroom house on the east side of Wonder Lake, Illinois. During that time, he had been keeping company with another girl. They had just ended their relationship, and she had returned all of the little mementos that lovers swap in a large manila envelope. He had laid that envelope horizontally on top of an encyclopedia on a wooden bookshelf in the bedroom. The next morning, he woke and saw that the envelope was standing vertically upright on the shelf with absolutely no support. The bottom of the envelope was bellowed out. In checking, he found that the bottom 2 inches of the envelope was filled with water. The water had not leaked out onto the bookshelf, and no books were wet. There were no water pipes in the bedroom, and no conceivable way for water to have gotten there. A month later, he came to visit me in Tennessee, where I was attending college. We eventually got married, but since I was in the middle of a semester, I couldn't move back to Illinois until June. Approximately 3 weeks after we were married, I flew to Illinois to help shop for a new house, as the one he was living in was too small. During the 2 weeks I was in Illinois, he had to work the afternoon shift. On the second night I was there, he had gone to work, and I was alone in the house. I was in the basement doing laundry. I heard footsteps overhead as if they were walking in our bedroom, through the living room, and into the kitchen. I distinctly heard the footsteps on the tile floor of our kitchen. I thought my husband had come home early for something, and I yelled up the stairs that I was in the basement. When I got no answer, I came upstairs to find no one there. I naturally assumed he had gotten a call and had to leave. A couple of nights later, I was taking a bath when I heard footsteps walk past the bedroom door and into the kitchen. Again, I yelled for my husband, but did not get an answer. I opened the bathroom door and peeked out. There was no one there, but I could still hear the footsteps in the kitchen. Again, I assumed it was my husband, slipping in for a Coke or something. In the bathroom, over the sink counter, my husband kept a glass ashtray. One night, he came home, and we were sitting in the living room talking, when we heard a loud cracking sound coming from the bathroom. We both went in to see what had broken, and found the glass ashtray broken in half, but still sitting on the counter exactly where it normally was. It had not shattered. It was a clean break right down the middle. The ashtray was clean. Nothing was near that could have fallen on it, nor did it have heat blowing on it. When I moved back to Illinois full-time, in June, we had to stay in the little house for 5 more weeks, until we closed on our new house. During this time, every time I went to the bathroom, the toilet seat was up. Now, I didn't really pay much attention to it, because I assumed that since my husband had been a bachelor for so long, he just forgot to put the seat down. I'd put the seat down, and the next time I went in there, it would be up again. My husband came home from work one night, and went to the bathroom. About 20 minutes later, he went back in there, and came right back out, his face ashen. He asked me if I'd gone into the bathroom since he had come home. He knew I hadn't, because we had both been sitting in the living room the entire time. When I told him that I hadn't, he said the toilet seat was up. I told him that bloody thing was always up. He said he never leaves it up and always makes a point of putting it back down. I went back into the bathroom with him and watched him put the seat down. 10 minutes later, we went to check, and the seat was back up. A week before we moved into our new house, I was sleeping when my husband got home. He wakened me, getting into bed, and I had to use the bathroom. The lights were off, and I was groggily trying to get out of bed. I felt my right foot tangled in the sheet. My left foot was on the floor, and I was on my right knee trying to pull the sheet off. I had just gotten untangled when I looked over to the dresser next to the bed and saw a haze, but thought, of course, that it was just the moonlight coming through the window. I had almost stood up when I felt a hand on my chest that pushed me backwards onto the bed so hard that I thought I would go through the bottom of the mattress. I was terrified that I couldn't move. Ray was yelling at me for almost falling on him, and when I told him what happened, he made me get up to face it. He said if I didn't face it, I would always be afraid in that house. After many minutes, I finally got up enough courage to get out of bed and go to the bathroom, and, as always, the toilet seat was up. Since Ray had never felt threatened by anything that bizarre, or any of the things that occurred in our house, he invited whatever was there to go with us to our new house. Thankfully, whatever it was stayed behind. However, it seems that it was a protector spirit for him. We did not tell the new owner, a single guy, about the spirit, and I have often wondered if that spirit takes good care of him as well. Story 2. Saved by the Ghost. I first need to take you back 5 years, when my Aunt Sue, who I loved with all my heart, died. Everyone was so sad, but no one was as sad as my mother, who had been her best friend for 25 years. 2 years ago, my Aunt Linda was home alone. Her house has 2 floors, plus a furnished basement. She was putting her clothes in the dryer, which was in the basement, and had decided that she was going to take a shower while the clothes were drying. She went to the 2nd floor, where the bathroom is. She shut the door, turned on the water, when she heard someone in the hall call her name twice. Thinking her husband had come home, she went to the top of the stairs and yelled yes. She waited for a reply when she smelled smoke. A second later, she heard a loud popping coming from the bathroom. She turned around and saw the bathroom on fire. My aunt's dryer had caught fire. It went up the laundry chute that was in the closet of her bathroom. If she had stayed in there just seconds longer, she would not have been able to make it out the door, and she would not be with us today. A few days after the fire, my mom, my brother, and I were helping her go through her things to see if there was anything worth saving. We were in the basement where the fire started. There was a section of shelves where she kept certain things on. There was one box that looked salvageable. My mom was going through, and she noticed that everything in there was wet or soot-covered until she reached the middle of the box. In the middle of the box, she noticed everything was dry and in perfect condition. She pulled out a pale blue blouse. My Aunt Linda started crying, and when my mom asked what was wrong, my aunt said, "That's Sue's blouse." Sure enough, it was, and when my mom hugged it close, she could still smell Sue's perfume. We thanked her so much for saving Linda's life. Linda wouldn't be here today if Sue hadn't warned her. Story 3. Death. My husband and I married in June of 1977. He was in the military and stationed in Rome, New York. We found a small trailer in the village of Blossville. The trailer was the size of a large Winnebago. We were so happy and cozy. It was my habit to get up in the mornings and fix a large breakfast for my husband, and then go back to bed when he left for work and sleep until around 9 a.m. One morning in August, I woke with a start and knew something was staring at me. I was laying in the bed with my feet facing the back door and my back to the living room. I rolled over and almost bumped into this dark figure leaning over me. It looked like the Grim Reaper, full size and terrifying. Up until this moment, I always thought the Grim Reaper was a fictitious character made up some long ago Halloween, but right this instant he was standing over me. I was terrified. Being young, terrified, and trapped in bed, I did the only thing I could do. I threw the blanket over my head. I was in a panic. I started praying like I've never prayed before, and finally got up the nerve to look out from beneath my blanket. It was gone. A week later, the same thing happened. My mind was reeling. What is happening? What does it want? Is it coming after me? What can I do to protect myself? Finally, I told my husband what had happened. He got this strange look on his face. I thought that he was going to say I was crazy. So I dropped the subject and tried not to think of it. I kept telling myself that I was crazy and that I was imagining things, simply because I didn't like the alternative. The thought of it left me trembling. I was all alone every day, 20 miles from the city and hundreds of miles from my mommy. 2 weeks after the second appearance, it came back. This time, I woke with the now familiar feeling of something staring at me. I lay there, considering my possibilities. I could continue to hide under my covers and eventually let it get me, or I could face it. I'd figure I'd rather die facing the situation than die being a coward under my blanket. Now, I don't know if I call that courage, but something that made me able to roll over and fling the covers back and confront that thing. I'd never seen its face before, as its hood was always in the way. Well, to my surprise, as I flung the covers off me and sat up on the side of the bed, it recoiled from me. It brought its arms up and crossed them over what would be its face. But there was no face. It was just empty darkness within the hood. As I came up off the bed, it turned and took off in one fluid motion towards my kitchen. I looked down at its feet. It had no feet. It was about 4 or 5 inches off the ground. Well, seeing how this thing was fleeing from me, I worked up the nerve to yell at it to leave me alone and to never come back. I peered around the wall to look into my kitchen, and it was not there. Now, if I had left through one of the 2 doors, I would have seen it from where I was standing beside my bed. Believe me, I was waiting for something to exit via one of the doors, but it didn't. It just disappeared. 20 years later, I still wonder what the heck that thing was after, what the visits meant, if they meant anything at all. 18 years after this happened to me, I brought the subject up once more to my husband. I wanted to know if he thought I was crazy. What did he think about all this? He ruefully told me that he got a funny look on his face when I told him about it, because the Reaper had visited him also, in this same time frame that it had visited me. He told me that it had grabbed him by the ankle on 2 separate occasions and shook it until he woke up. He said that when he would wake up and look at it, it would disappear. I was shocked. At least the thing never touched me. My husband said he was so terrified, but he did not tell me about his events because he knew how frightened I was. He just didn't know what to do about it. How do you fight something that's not even supposed to be real?